Welcome back, guys. I recently, just yesterday, got back from a Wrangler school that I went to in Wyarno, Wyoming. I went to the Dry Creek Wrangler School, which is ran by Dwayne and Deanna Knoll, and they are very, very good people. Dwayne is definitely a great man. I learned a lot. I had already been interested in wrangling and cowboying before, but now I definitely have a much deeper interest in both those things because of all that I've learned there, and I want to pursue those things. Absolutely 100% pursue those things. Now, I just thought I would go through some of the things I learned there, and I was debating going through day by day what I learned just because that's what they teach, but you can look all of these things up online and find all of these things about tack or communication with a horse. It's less likely that you will find information about communication with the horse, but you can find a lot about tack, which is the head stall and the saddle. And really, even telling you this here, it does not even compare to learning these things in person and learning how to do these things in person and actually riding a horse. Watching a video about riding horses in no way really gonna help you learn how to ride a horse. So we got there on a Sunday, and we just had half the day left, so we sat around the fire, just talking, just talking about various different things. But the real first day started on Monday, and I don't really remember exactly what happened on which day. It all just clumped together, and it felt like one really long day, which is not a bad thing. But I'm going to try to go through day by day what happened. So on the first day, we learned a lot about communication with the horses, that you are not trying to manhandle the horse. And you also have to realize that you're asking the horse to do some pretty crazy things. I mean, you're saying, I'm going to put this 35 to 45 pound thing on your back. I'm going to strap it to you, and then I'm going to ride you, and you're going to have to listen to what I say. So, which a lot of these things about horse communication seem obvious when you're told those things, but it's like so many good things to learn. It sounds very obvious, but you just need to get over that edge to where someone can explain something in the proper way that makes it make sense. The other thing we learned is that if a horse isn't doing something, there's four reasons why, and that's because they physically can't, they don't want to, they're scared, or they don't know what you're asking them to do. And the three steps to reining, to neck reining, are one, you look in one direction or the other so that your body weight shifts, because a horse can feel a fly on their back. So if you're shifting your body weight in a certain direction, they can feel it. So for neck reining, you look in a certain direction, you put the reins on their neck, you lay the reins on their neck, and then you bump the reins in one direction or another, just to start getting them to go that way. Or you eventually can get to the point with a horse where you just have to lay the reins on their neck and don't have to bump the reins, and they will follow in that direction. Another thing that I learned, which makes a lot of sense now, Dwayne told us that horses match their heartbeat to the things around them. So if there's a group of horses, or let's just say if there's two horses, they're both right next to each other, then one horse hears something or sees something, and his heartbeat rises. The other horse, who may have his back to that horse and has no idea what's going on, its heartbeat will suddenly match that horse's and will rise as well. So, you're told that horses can sense your how you're feeling. But now it makes more sense, because if they can match their heartbeat to certain things, match their heartbeat to your heartbeat, they might get scared all of a sudden when you're scared. They might be nervous when you're nervous. So that was, it almost sounds fake. It almost sounds fake, but that was crazy to learn. Now, again, I might get these days mixed up. It all felt like one big day. Day two was pretty much all about tack, which again is the headstall and the saddle. And we were learning about the different parts of the saddle, how the base part of the saddle is called the tree. Then there's the bars that run along the sides, which actually touch the sides of the horse's back. And then learning how to understand if a saddle actually fits a horse or not, depending on how the bars rest on the horse's back. We also learned that the tree of the saddle, which is wood, is then wrapped in rawhide, which at first, when you wrap the rawhide around the wooden tree, it's soft. But as it dries, it hardens and kind of becomes a shield for the wood. And then also, which I think was important to learn, that a good quality saddle is typically $2,000 to $3,000 at least. Now, a lot of Dwayne saddles are more expensive than that. More expensive than that, like around $5,000. But that's because those are handmade. Everything is handmade. And Dwayne thought that it probably takes around 40 hours to build a saddle, maybe more. So, and with the materials it's made out of, it's obviously very high quality. We also learned about two different types of bits, which I didn't know before. In Uruguay, I've ridden horses a pretty good amount, a lot more than the average man, and I've pushed cattle a lot more than the average man there. I just learned how to do these things from people who don't speak English, and I just watched what to do and learned it over time. But I did not know anything about saddles or bits, anything, nothing. But one very important thing to learn was about these two different types of bits, which is a snaffle bit and a signal bit. Snaffle bit is the type of bit that you want to start off with on horse. If you buy a new horse, you want to start off with a snaffle bit. The snaffle bit has basically two metal bars that connect like a chain in the middle. And if you're too rough with the reins and you pull back too hard, it can pinch their gums and hit the roof of their mouth, which really makes it so that you are trying to teach them how to neck rein as much as possible if they don't already know. But again, the snaffle bit is like you're trying to test the horse out and see what it knows. And then when you believe that they're ready to move on to the signal bit, then you can move on to that. And that's after they understand neck reining and you understand how far along the horse is and what it understands. Then after, I believe it was on Tuesday, we went for about an hour-long ride. Now that I'm looking at my notes, I do think that I got a few things mixed up, a few different days mixed up, but that's all right. It's pretty much almost the same. So on day 3, we had a lesson with a tarp where Dwayne laid out a tarp on the ground in a small horse arena that they have, just to show us how a horse might react when they come in contact with a stream, because a lot of times they might not want to cross it, which makes sense if you have eyes on either side of your head and you're seeing two different pictures at once. Seeing a stream would be difficult and you might not want to cross it. So this tarp was laid out on the ground, and I believe Dwayne was on his horse Ray, which is a 2-year-old mare that he has. So he was just showing us what to do when a horse doesn't want to cross a stream or something else that they might not want to cross. And he was just showing us that you never you never back away. You never let the horse back away from this. You might want to give them some room and maybe back up, but you always want to keep them facing towards this and actually face what scares them, which I believe he's going to make a video on that as well because that can be used for horses and for life. But he was just showing us that you have to be persistent with keeping them in that direction, looking at the thing they're afraid of, and then slowly inching them forward to it until they put one hoof on, the other hoof on, and then they'll cross. Or they'll get freaked out and you just keep trying again and again and again. I mean, one other thing that he taught us was that when you're on a horse, there's two things you have to let go of, and that's your pride and time. Time does not exist on a horse. Now, if you take a horse out and try to teach them how to do one thing and it takes 5 minutes and they understand it pretty well, then you come back in after 5 minutes. You don't keep pushing. Because the idea that you want to keep pushing is going along with the idea that time really matters and that you need to keep pushing so that you at least have an hour of doing this one exercise with the horse, but it learned it in 5 minutes, so it doesn't matter. Or maybe it'll take 2-3 hours. In that case, you're on there for 2-3 hours and you're not worrying about time. So you get rid of time as well as pride. And also on the third day, again, I forget, but I believe we had an afternoon ride. On day 4, we pretty much rode all day. And, these are trail rides. And trail rides aren't the most fun because especially with a large group of people, because all the horses just follow one another. So if you have one guide and they're leading the way, you don't really have to do much at all. But when I was there on those trail rides, I was trying to be as in control of my horse as I could so that I was still learning a lot and I wasn't just sitting there with the reins resting on the horn of the saddle, letting it go. I was trying to move him around sagebrush. I was trying to point him in certain directions. I would notice that he was drifting in one direction and I would try to go the other way. And my horse Chance was a good horse. I liked him a lot. But I think even on trail rides you have to try, you have to be in control. And that helped later on day 5, but I'll talk about that in a second. Day 4, again, just lots of riding all day. We had one ride that was about 2 hours in the morning. We came back for lunch, and then another guy, another student there, me, him, and Dwayne went out on our own ride, which was very fun because we weren't just following a trail and looping back around to the place where we had lunch. We rode from basically this, we would call it up top. Everyone called it up top. It was about 20 minutes away from the house. There was a little barn up there where all the horses would be. We rode 5 miles from that barn all the way back to the house. And that was a very fun ride. And I remember one rule that they have there is do not disturb Dwayne's calm. And that morning when we were trying to bring the horses in, people weren't positioned in the right places, so the horses got past them. Dwayne had to saddle another horse and go bring him in. So that was a bit frustrating, and it probably disturbed his calm a little bit. People not really paying attention, not moving around where they need to be when the horses were very, very close to the house, or very close to the barn, I mean. So I remember we were out on that ride, and I turned to him. He's smoking his cigar on horseback, and I said, does something like this rekindle your calm, Mr. Knoll? And he was like, yeah, yeah, it does. Uh, because being out in beautiful country like that on horseback, not really on a trail ride, just finding finding out where to go on your own, trailblazing. That it rekindles my calm, that's for sure. So I thought it would for him too. Uh, Again, I seriously might get these days mixed up, but that's all right. It's basically I'm just telling you what happened, and that's all that really matters. Day 5, we got a lucky treat, and that was pushing cattle. Now, I have, like I said, a lot more experience doing that than the average man. So doing it with a whole group of people who have never done it before was interesting. At one point, one woman was pushing the cattle. Well, she did it twice, pushing the cattle in the wrong direction. Uh, so, but the guy who went on the ride with Dwayne and I, him and I were going around by the fences trying to bring a lot of the cattle in. We went down into a river to try to bring the cattle out of there from under some trees. Then I went up on a hill and brought some strays back. Uh, and Dwayne was like, I wasn't expecting you to go up that hill. And I was just thinking, I've done this before and I'm taking it seriously, so I'm gonna do everything. And I was taking it more seriously, even though it was just for fun. I mean, we barely moved them at all. Uh, Barely. Maybe we did it for 30 or 45 minutes, but that was at a very, very slow speed with people who don't know what they're doing, pushing the cattle and then taking them into a different pasture. But I thought we were going to move them a little farther, but there were also little calves there, and it was really hot out, so you don't want to move them. You don't want to push them that hard. And it would have taken a long time to move them further than that. But anyway, this video is a lot longer than I meant it to be. I learned a lot. And one big takeaway. Well, I told my dad as soon as I got back that never in my life have I missed a group of people that I don't know in a place I don't know more. I never have. Because that was a very down to earth group of people. They did not talk about abstract things, they talked about real things and improving in the real world. Rarely did they cuss at all. It was just very, for the most part, proper, and there was a lot more dignity with those people than being out here in the suburbs or in the city. So the one big takeaway was that so much of what we do now does not matter. I mean, as soon as I left there, I wanted to go back because, we weren't staying in a 5-star hotel eating 5-star meals, even though the food was very good, very good. They were not 5-star meals. It was not glamping in any way. You were sweating, sunburnt, bitten by mosquitoes, dusty. At least I was, and another guy was. uh, but it was so much more fulfilling. At the end of every day, I was able to go to sleep very well because I was tired, but I also felt like I had done something important. I had done something meaningful. And as soon as I get back here, I have a hard time falling asleep. I have a much harder time falling asleep. And I tend to get up later because I don't have much to look forward to. I don't. Uh, which this is not a oh poor me moment. I'm just saying the luxuries we have now do not matter in any way. In no way. What I learned from Mr. Knoll, from Dwayne, is that, and this is something I learn over and over again, but it's just it's reinforcing itself over time. That all that really matters is what you do in life, maintaining a sense of dignity and the relationships you have with other people. That's about all that matters. And again, it's so funny to come back here and not feel fulfilled. Even though I have this computer here, I have the Amazon screen thing, I have a bigger bed, I'm in air conditioning, there's more than one bathroom, I'm not getting burnt in the sun or being bitten by mosquitoes constantly. It means so much more to be in a place like that, doing something that's actually happening in the real world. And I told my girlfriend on the way back, I was like, there is no way I will ever work an office job or even sit at a desk all day sitting at a computer. No way. Especially not after that, because that's what I want to do, not any of that. And again, that's just because it's in the real world. It's in the real world. It's not, you are not pursuing abstract, fake things in a fake world. You're pursuing something meaningful. You're doing something meaningful. You're doing something that actually makes a difference in the real world. So that's the big takeaway for me, at least. Another thing is, you also get a mug when you leave. And if you're like me, every time you look at it, you'll realize that you don't want to be in a newly developed suburb with a ton of Indians who have no dignity and no respect for life. Indians. You want to be out in the country somewhere doing something that actually matters. Anyway, this was a much longer video than I thought it would be, but this is what I learned. I highly recommend that you guys apply to go to the Wrangler School if you have any interest at all in learning how to ride a horse, or if you're interested in wrangling or cowboying. Even though you're not learning how to cowboy, you're learning the basic fundamentals in order to get into cowboying, or at least to give you a little push. At least that's what I noticed. Do not go there for a vacation. It is not a vacation. And I'm very happy it's not a vacation. Of course, you pay for it, so you can do whatever you want. You don't have to go on any rides at all. Don't go there for a vacation. Go there to get dusty, sweaty, sunburnt, and bitten by more mosquitoes than you can imagine. And learn a lot. Learn a lot. It was amazing, and now I know what I want to do. So, which I've been waiting a long time to have a very clear understanding of what I want. So it's nice to finally have that. Anyway, long video, almost 30 minutes long. I'll probably edit a lot of it out. But again, if you guys can or have any interest in going to Dry Creek Wrangler School with Dwayne and Deanna, they're very admirable people with a strong sense of dignity. will teach you quite a lot. All right, guys. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you guys get away from a suburb with a ton of Indians that don't care about anyone or anything. And I hope you find something meaningful to pursue.